Welcome to Tang Productions. Today I'm going to talk about the Wing Chun blocks. In the last video on the centerline punch, I spoke about a single technique, and that technique has to adapt upon different variables. The most important one is the reaction time and the response time. That will change how the technique is delivered and the impact it has on the shape or the structure of the technique. The same will apply to the block. So as in any block, whether it's a Sau, Bong Sau, 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 or whatever block you have, you still need to counter, follow through with a punch, either follow through good basic punch. If you have that, then you know that these things here are more likely to be able to reproduce and applied in a real situation. Then moving on from here, if your interest is more on the traditional art side and to explore all these various different techniques and combinations, that's all very fine. As long as you are honest, if you're honest with yourself and you can apply this knowing your intention, then you know whether your technique is right or not. Quite often people mix the two together. An artist would believe they can fight, or a teacher, and of course putting that lots of artistic intricate movements is unnecessary in a real fight situation, because in a real fight situation it's ugly. Everything's raw, very basic movements. Basic punch, basic grapple, great basic kick, everything's basic, because it doesn't last long. Unlike in a sports combat, you've got time to produce lots of different skills. In a street situation, you don't have that time. Most situations last between, I don't know, a couple of seconds to generally no more than 30 seconds. And you have to make your mind up and make a decision within that short time. It's not about trying to be very skillful. It's about resolving a problem. So it would be sensible to train. These are very basic and very practical approaches in training a simple technique, a blocking technique that you can use. Much more so than trying to progress on from here, where you go like this, and then you do this, and bang, 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 and you start doing all these movements, which is really pointless, because you would never, ever be able to do that in a situation. Unless you hit the person straight away, they're half unconscious, you could do any technique. You could go like that, pick your nose and punch at the same time. You can do anything. Key thing is stick to basic if you want to make it work. All self-defense technique is totally dependent on the reaction time and response time. Reaction time is considered when you detect a threat or stimulus and the first muscle twitch. The response time is that plus movement time. For example, if I'm facing you, I see you throw the punch, and attack me, then that's my initial reaction time. I detect it and then there's a first sign of muscle twitch. The response time is if I've got to counter, if I'm going to defend myself, if I was going to punch you or to block, then that's the movement time. That's the definition of the reaction time and response time. In structuring your training program, you need to work out what is the main purpose of your training. If it's for an art, a traditional art, a historical art, then you do a great number of blocks and lots of different skills. If it's self-defense, then you need to look at, in a real situation, what is the statistics for blocking and striking or grappling. So, with many Wing Chun training, a lot of time is dedicated on blocking, counter-attack. And counter-attack with very complex techniques. These complex techniques, when I say complex, I mean more than one movement. So for example, you do a Bong Sau, and then you do the Bong, and then you do a La. That's 1, 2 and 3. 3 movements against 1 movement. What are the chances of that technique succeeding? Very, very slim to almost impossible. Right, imagine this is someone's arm, and that's the end of the fist. So I'll use that as the to demonstrate the technique. So here we have the definition classical block with a block and guard hand. Okay, then you have lap sau and punch, dou kun, or side palm strike. This is all based on the fact that you're able to react to an attack before the punch gets any closer. So, in reality, is that possible? Yes, sometimes. But the chances are you won't be able to get the ideal block, Sau and Bong Sau, the ideal form, simply because how we react to the attacker. Let's take the Sau block. Okay. Ideally, if you can detect a threat, and usually in a real situation, it doesn't happen right. You're ready, the other person's ready, right? Throw me a punch, and you block, and you do all sorts of moves. It doesn't happen like that. It's normally from a visual dispute, a verbal dispute, then the uncertainty whether something's going to happen or not. That's the time when things happen. And more often than not, if someone throws a punch and you try to counter, if your reaction is quick, then you'll be able to do the block it with a Sau, like that. If your reaction is perfect. If not, what happens when the punch reaches closer to me and before I can respond? So your Sau changes. Your Sau become more like this, and you're more likely you end up tensing up like this. So that means this technique, the ideal position, changes to that. And what happens when the attack comes, let's say a kick, round to the head, and you try to apply a Sau from here? Some people demonstrate it like this, to a kick. But more often than not, when the kick comes along, by the time you block it, the Sau, again, if it gets closer to you like this, more likely it will change. So, going back onto reaction time, as it gets closer, Sau becomes like this. As it gets even closer, it changes shape and becomes like this. And a question, as I posed to you last time, do you still consider it as a Sau or as a senton punch? And unless you're flexible with it, then trying to apply the technique as in the same form as you do in the training hall or in a gun or a gym is ineffective. And a lot of people try to prove that by fighting, by comparing, going to contests, and you see a lot of the Wing Chun guys fail because they try too much to become so stylistic and try to become, to produce the same technique, very set movement in a very unpredictable environment. So with the Bong Sau, again, it has to adapt. If my hand is already, let's say there's the opponent, I'm placing a hand on the other person's chest to keep them apart whilst I'm negotiating. So we're in a semi-aggressive situation here. And let's say the punch comes along and I'm able to react. If it's here, I could just lift up the Bong Sau to block. But if I react slower and my hand is here, then I will have to adapt my body if I was to apply the same block with the Bong Sau. I'm trying to illustrate here that any block, any technique you do has to adapt due to your reaction time.